Hello, I'm Andrew Pearce, and this is The Daily Show from the Daily Mail newsroom. Coming up, have you ever been drunk in charge of your kids in a pub? Well, if you have, it may not happen again because one pub has possibly started a trend. It's limiting 2 drinks to parents if they're with their children. Also, have we found the answer to dry January? Fizzy tea. Doesn't sound very nice to me. The Church of England has come up with new guidance on civil partnerships. They say there should be absolutely no sex. A question for the bishops, how are they going to possibly enforce that? Jan Moyer, one of my favourite Daily Mail columnists, if not my favourite, she's talking about tacky royals cashing in. But first, we're talking about the coronavirus. 14 people in Britain have already been tested. So cases of the new strain in the UK are highly likely, according to Public Health England. The Cabinet's Cobra Committee has met today to coordinate the government's response. 14 people have been tested in the UK, 9 people awaiting results, 5 getting the all clear. Globally, there are more than 800 confirmed cases of the virus, which has killed 26 people in China. Joining me now to explain how best to avoid it is Dr. Ellie Cannon, resident GP at the Mail on Sunday. Dr. Cannon, Ellie, this is a highly contagious virus. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that is the problem. So it's called a coronavirus, as you've probably heard. And the trouble with viruses compared to, say, bacteria and particularly coronaviruses are they mutate and change very, very quickly. They're very contagious. They can live on surfaces. They can be transmitted in air droplets, so somebody sneezing or coughing, but also people holding the same bus rail or rail on the tube as you. So it could really be quite concerning.
What do we do, people listening, what do they do if they're worried about it? How do we try to ensure we don't catch it?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to sort of be pretty sensible about the fact that the chances still now are pretty low, unless you've been somebody that has been travelling in Wuhan or you have come into contact with a traveller. And also, going along with that, you know, viruses all mimic each other. So if you read the symptoms of coronavirus, you would see that they're very similar symptoms to normal flu and normal colds and normal coughs. So the chances are you've got all of those things. So chances are very, very low. I think there isn't really anything more to say about prevention beyond the usual type of prevention. Lots of hand washing, blowing your nose into a tissue, making sure if you are using public transport and you don't have the opportunity to wash your hands, you've got alcohol gel. So those type of things, that's all that we know prevents viruses.
And what about, Ellie? Have I really got to wear one of those masks that Chinese people seem to wear all the time anyway?
Well, I mean, Public Health England certainly, don't advise that for people. I mean, It's not something that we've ever done here. I remember when there was the swine flu outbreak in 2009 and we had them in the GP surgery I work in and we would sort of put them on gesturally when people might have had flu, and it was all sort of very silly. I mean, I think hand hygiene and making sure you are coughing and sneezing into a tissue is far more important.
All right. That's Dr. Ellie Cannon, resident GP at the Mail on Sunday. Now, if you enjoy The Daily Show, we hope you do, please subscribe to us and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google or Spotify. And if you want to get in touch, email me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk or follow us at mailplus_. The Daily Mail's Jan Moore has been writing prolifically this week on the various extra sources of income enjoyed by those satellite members of the royal family. Let's remind ourselves of that milk advert featuring the Queen's grandson, apparently her favourite grandson, Peter Phillips.
我是 Peter Phillips， 我爱喝娟山鲜牛奶。100年来，娟山牛种一直受英伦保护，新鲜的才是我要的。质优娟山英伦珍品，奢享鲜纯。
This is what I drink.
Well, as Jan Moyer says in the Mail today, why do these lesser renter royals always want more? Jan, I'm not attempting to do a translation of the Chinese. He fibbed though, didn't he, Peter Phillips, saying he grew up at Windsor Castle. He didn't grow up anywhere near it.
Yes, and all the kind of, he's wandering in the advert, he's wandering around in front of some great turreted building that I certainly don't recognise. Looks like it's straight from Disneyland. But obviously, just even having the hint or the tinge of being royal is enough for people like him to secure lucrative deals abroad. I mean, Kitty Spencer isn't even royal. I mean, Kitty was also in one of these milk ads for a rival company.
She was Diana's godmother, the goddaughter or something, wasn't she?
She's Princess Diana's niece.
Niece, that's right.
And so she's been doing this. I mean, the whole thing, I think, started with, of course, it brings us back to Meghan and Harry, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who were caught hustling for voiceover work for Meghan on a red carpet event in London not that long ago. And what I think is, my goodness, if this is what they're doing in public, what on earth are these people doing in private? They come from a wealthy family. There's lots of money sloshing around the royals, but it's never quite enough. They've always got to do something a little bit more to cash in on their connections. And the thing is, they can't, the thing is, it's all about sort of sponsorships and ambassadorships and consultancies and endorsements, endeavours that trade off who they are, not what they can actually do, which of course is very little in the first place.
Because Zara Phillips, she's an ambassador for Range Rover, isn't she? And then of course she was caught speeding in her Range Rover.
That's right. She was banned for 6 months.
Yeah.
So what's that going to do to her sponsorship? Probably absolutely nothing. And we're going to have various stories over the next few days. The latest person to cash in, of course, is Fergie, the Duchess of York, who's launching a range of teacups and necklaces.
Just so tacky. Just in 20 seconds, Jan Moyer, do you think Her Majesty gets exasperated by the antics of these minor royals?
I think she must do, because the thing is, they taint the royal family. They make all of us look at the monarchy with a slightly jaundiced eye, in a way that we don't do. She's always behaved impeccably. Well, she would, wouldn't she? I mean, because she's got absolute millions. She's one of the richest women in the world. She's no need to flog milk to the Chinese, but I'm sure she's not happy about it.
That's Jan Moyer, reader column in the Daily Mail every Friday. Now, if you want to get in touch, email me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk, or you follow us at mailplus_. Now, civil partnerships, according to new advice from the Church of England, should be sexually abstinent friendships, whether between a man and a woman or two people of the same sex. The pastoral advice from bishops was issued after that recent law change, which allows heterosexual couples to have a civil ceremony, to be in a civil partnership, instead of regular marriage. So the Church says in a statement, with opposite-sex civil partnerships and with those for same-sex couples, the Church's teaching on sexual ethics remains unchanged. Well, joining me now is Andrew Williams, Chief Executive of Christian Concern and member of the General Synod. The first question I have to ask you is, how on earth does the Church think it's going to enforce this ruling?
Well, I think that the Church's teaching has always been clear. And what's surprising in many ways is that this statement has attracted so much publicity, because it really is the Church being the Church and setting out what marriage is, what it really means, and the standard for that within the Church. So that's very clear. And so I think that, in a sense, it's because generally what marriage really means and what the Church's view of that is, what the biblical view of that has become so muffled in the public space, that this today has caused so much media coverage.
But it's impossible to enforce it. I mean, you're like King Canute on the beach trying to send back the waves. People aren't married, they live happily together. It doesn't mean they're not good Christians, Andrea, just because they're having sex and they're not married.
Well, I think that the reality is this, that to really be a Christian, it means to really follow the teaching of Jesus Christ, who teaches that sexual expression is for within marriage, for a man and a woman within a lifelong marriage, within a committed marriage, and all that brings with it. And so that is something that is clear, has always been clear, and those that would want to follow Jesus and what he teaches should also want to follow exactly that, should be obedient to his teaching.
Do you think Jesus really cares? And do you not think that the fact that this ruling has been made today It's making the church a laughingstock, Andrea, and is it any wonder that the pews in churches are increasingly emptying out most weekends?
Well, I don't think that they are. I think that, interestingly, where the teaching with regards to marriage and sexual purity is being taught clearly, we're seeing there the churches and young people flocking to the churches in the United Kingdom and indeed across the world. You know, young people are really tired of the sort of sexualized hookup culture, the kind of glorification of sex.
They're on dating apps all the time, Andrea. What are you talking about?
Well, the reality of the dating apps is it often leaves people empty and void and hurting.
But they're the young people who are on them. These young people that you tell me are flocking to the church to get God's pure message, they're flocking to dating apps.
Each one of us are hungry for relationship, for meaning, for purpose, for beauty. Each one of us hungry for that. And what the Bible offers, what the Bible says, is that sexual expression within the context of a lifelong marriage between a man and a woman is the place to find that. And indeed, that's what many people become despondent when they don't find that in the sense what the world is offering and what the apps are offering. They often find an emptiness, a void. And the teaching of the Bible is clear that that in the following of Jesus Christ, there is health, there is wholeness, there is happiness, there is relationship healing, that there's a lot that's to be offered there. And we find this across the country and across the world, indeed, where young people are following that. They're loving it.
Just finally, will Jesus forgive these errant souls in civil partnerships who are having sex?
I think the reality is that Jesus promised to forgive each one of us. For sin, not just sexual sin, but each one of our sin. That's the message of glorious hope that he brings. That's the message of the gospel.
All right, that's Andrea Williams, unrepentant about that message from the Church of England. She's Chief Executive of Christian Concern and a member of the General Synod. I've introduced my civil partner to my priest and he thought he was very nice. Now, coming up, could you deal with your kids at the pub on less than 2 drinks? You might have to. I'll tell you why. And if you're struggling with dry January, I am. We might have the solution for you. But first, what's on TV tonight? Claudia Connell's going to tell us.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm going to start with talking about Cobra on Sky One.
This is the Prime Minister. The situation in London today is very grave. Without fuel and supplies, people in the worst affected areas will die.
The solar storm has hit the UK and the country is in meltdown. There's no power, there's no phone signals, no means of travel. Hospitals are in crisis mode. It's the second episode of the new political drama where Robert Carlyle plays the Prime Minister under pressure. I mean, it's as hammy as hell. It's not going to be troubling the BAFTAs anytime soon, but I still quite like it. It's a good bit of escapism. Boy George, 1970s Save Me from Suburbia is on BBC 4.
Before the 70s, everyone knew the world was full of gays, but they were forced into hiding. My generation burst out of the closet and danced for joy. I started the decade with no interest in politics and ended up as some sort of symbol, maybe a question mark. Sometimes the most political act is just being yourself.
It's a feature-length documentary. It is a repeat, but it's just a must-watch if you didn't catch it the first time around. Boy George revisits his teenage years and he talks about how it was to be a young gay guy in the 1970s, and he discusses his musical influences and his rise to fame and his family. The thing is, he's just such a witty and entertaining person that it's a very good watch. It's moving, but it's also very funny. And then let's talk about the Graham Norton Show on BBC One. I mean, Graham has well and truly seen off any chat show competition from Jonathan Ross on ITV. Graham still gets all the A-listers, even after 26 series. Tonight, I think it may well be the loveliest couch of all time. There's the very intense and I have to say slightly humorless Robert Downey Jr. And joining him will be Emma Thompson and Hugh Laurie to discuss their new projects.
Now it's time for our regular city update with Ruth Sunderland, business editor at the Daily Mail. Before we talk about Brexit and the economy, great interview today on the business pages with the first woman.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, so the interview is with the first female chief executive of Royal Bank of Scotland, and Alison Rose, for it is she, is also the first female chief executive of any of the big 4 banks.
Right, very good. Well, she seemed great. Now, talking, Ruth, about Brexit, it's Brexit Day next week. Some of us are looking forward to it. Some of us are planning the parties.
We are indeed. And just in time, the economy is looking to be in pretty good shape. We've got a bit of a Brexit boost on the cards. So there've been a number of positive bits of data and predictions coming out. Something called the PMI figures that people like geeky people like me watch quite closely. Purchasing Managers Index figures are very positive for the UK, more so than France and Germany and the Eurozone as a whole, which is good. And also the International Monetary Fund earlier this week forecasts that the UK is going to outperform Germany, France, Italy, Japan. So, again, that's quite positive news. So the Project Fear was a bit wrong. Matt was having a go at me at not making predictions, but I didn't get it quite as badly wrong as the Project Fear predictions.
No, and of course, Madame Lagarde, who used to run the IMF, thought she was doing George Osborne a favour during the referendum campaign when she said it was going to be terrible Brexit.
She said it was going to be anything ranging from pretty bad to very bad, I think, from memory.
Where's she pitched up now?
So she is at the ECB, the European Central Bank.
Funny that. They go from one public sector job to another, don't they?
Well, they do indeed. Speaking of that, really, speaking of central banks, on Thursday we're going to get the latest decision on interest rates.
Yep.
So one of the big issues there is that some people are expecting that there might be a cut in interest rates, which would be good news for those of us who borrow. But actually, what people might not realise is there are far more savers than borrowers. Savers outnumber borrowers by quite a big margin,
and
it's more bad news for them.
All right, that's Ruth Sunderland. Matt Gatwood, Deputy Sports Editor, here with his latest predictions. Now, I'm very pleased that Roger Federer clung on. He is my hero.
Roger did, yeah. He did cling on. It was a 5-setter, absolute thriller, and he won the tiebreak in the last. So
and he beat an Australian.
He beat an Australian, and he looked like he was dead and buried in the tiebreak. I think he was 5-2 down. So, the theme of the day at the Aussie Open, certainly in the women's game, was kind of about the changing of the guard. Serena was knocked out.
Still trying to overcome Margaret Court's.
Still trying to overcome Margaret Court's record.
Grand Slam record.
Exactly. So she's gone. It's the first time since 2006 that she's gone out this early at Australia in the Australian Open. So it just shows how long she's been dominating.
And the defending champion lost as well.
And the defending champion lost, Naomi Osaka, but obviously lost to Coco Gauff, this 15-year-old. So it very much felt like a changing of the guard. Serena out, Coco Gauff, 15, carries on. She could easily get to the semi-finals now. The draw sort of opened up for her. So just stunning that she should be so level-headed. So, beating the defending champ in straight sets was remarkable.
And we've got not much time today, Matt, so how are your cricket predictions going?
Very well, as ever, very well. 150 for 2 England are after winning the toss, so
good start.
A very good start to the Test match.
So we're going to win?
We're going to win this Test, yeah, comfortably.
So it'll be 3-1?
So it'll be 3-1, as I predicted at the start of the series, I think you'll find.
Yeah, there were one or two errors in between, but we won't remind you of those. That's Deputy Sports Editor Matt Gatwood. Now, do get in touch by emailing me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk, or you follow us at mailplus_. One of these days, I might even read out some of the emails that people sent in, so do persevere. Now, I'm fascinated by this. A pub has banned parents from buying more than 2 alcoholic drinks if they have children with them. The Wetherspoons policy came to light when a poster was put up in the Robert Pocock pub in Gravesend in Kent, after some quotes what was described as unruly behaviour from some of its punters. The pub said it was protecting children from harm after seeing mums and dads let their children run around uncontrolled. Well, joining me now is John Adams, who's parenting blogger at dadbloguk.com. What do you think about that, John? Good idea?
I think this particular pub there's clearly been a problem, so that they've had to limit what these regulars are drinking. I mean, I have to say it's not an issue. I mean, I have seen people obviously drunk with their children, but it's not something. It's not like Gin Alley. It's not like sort of a Hogarth cartoon or anything. I don't think.
No, well, quite. Perhaps do you think maybe they should have brought that rule in at that pub in Chequers, and then David Cameron might not have gone home without his daughter? Do you remember that?
Oh, I do remember that. Yes. That was an interesting example you give there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if they brought that ruling in any of the pubs around sort of Checkers or indeed, the Red Line or the pubs around Parliament, I guess we who knows? Maybe we'd have a better run country or a worse run country.
Yeah, but John, is there not just a touch of the nanny state going on here? I mean, it shouldn't. Aren't most mums and dads pretty responsible if they go into a pub with their kids?
Well, I think you're right. And if I think about the area where I live, there used to be, or actually no, there still is a big beer festival that's held every summer, and they actually make it very family friendly. And I have seen the former MP Sam Geema there with his kid,
right?
And so it's very family friendly. And to be frank, most parents do seem to be pretty responsible. I think it is the minority, and I think unfortunately it's the minority that have forced this pub to take this action, and it really isn't the publicity that Wetherspoons want, because I know they go out of their way to try and call the family market.
They do. I was going to say, and if you, I don't know how many children you've got, John, but I mean, do you limit yourself to 1 or 2 pints, or maybe you go as many as 3?
If I've got my kids with me, I've got the 2 daughters. I was once asked, interviewed by someone else, and asked what it was like parenting with a hangover, and I had to say, I don't know, because looking after kids with a hangover is just something I don't want to experience. So I do limit myself. I'm not teetotal. I do drink, and I'll limit myself to a couple. I don't tend to go any more. But the other thing is, I'm all within reason. I'm also always driving, or quite often driving.
Well, there we are then. All right. Well, that's John Adams. He's parenting blogger at dadbloguk.com. Now, listening to that is Councillor Jordan Mead. He's the leader of the Conservative group at Gravesham Borough Council, where the pub is. Now, Councillor, do you support what this pub is doing?
Hello, Andrew. I absolutely, wholeheartedly support what this pub is doing.
Why is that?
It's because I think the message here is that we have a licensee that is simply trying to uphold the licence and objectives of our community. And that objective in particular is to prevent children from coming to harm.
But isn't the real problem in pubs not dads and mums with kids? It's unruly 20-year-olds who stagger out having had 7 pints and then they're followed with a few shots, whatever those are.
Yeah, I mean, let me make it clear that I'm not against parents having 1 or 2 drinks with a lunch and taking children in. In Gresham, we've got a fantastic culture of that being the case, but I think, like the previous caller just said, it is that small minority that actually bring pubs into disrepute and make it unpleasant for the wider community.
Have you seen much evidence of it?
Not in daytime, I haven't. I mean, I drink in the Wetherspoons myself, and
right.
I mean, it's a very safe pub. They make sure that children are out by 9:30. I think they actually prevent the children from coming in after 9 o'clock at night. They can stay until 9:30 if they're having a meal. So, I mean, the Wetherspoons is absolutely a role model for upholding what I think is sound licensing policy.
Do you think the pub has taken the notice down after it was posted on social media? So do you think Wetherspoons are slightly wary about the publicity this has generated? Because, as the blogger was saying to me, they pride themselves on the fact they're seen as a family-friendly pub chain.
I do, and I actually think it's a great shame because they are family friendly, particularly in Gravesend and other pubs across Kent that I've been to. That has been the case. And I think they are worried that by upholding, like I said, what is a very sensible policy, may be seen to be actually closing the door to parents, which certainly isn't the case.
It's we had to research this. Apparently, being drunk in charge of a child under 7 in a public place is illegal under the 1902 Licensing Act. Do you think, Councillor, it's probably time they updated that?
No, I don't. I mean, I think there are very good grounds why that is still in force.
Right.
I mean, it's all very well to have 1 or 2 drinks with a child in a pub, but of course that parent then has to get the child home, and the Wetherspoons is in Gravesend, is in the centre of town.
Right.
So you're either crossing busy roads, going on the railway tracks, or, well, you wouldn't be driving, hopefully, but you've got to think about the safety of the child beyond the pub environment. All
right, Councillor. I bet you never get drunk, Councillor Mead.
Never at all. I'm quite a frequent visitor of the Wetherspoons, but I wouldn't say I'm ever drunk and disorderly.
2 or 3? 2 or 3 drinks, maybe?
Two or three, absolutely.
All right. That's Councillor Jordan Mead. He's the leader of the Conservative group at Gravesham Borough Council supporting that action by the pub. Well, let us know what you think about that. Do you agree with it? If you want to get in touch, email me at dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk or follow us at mailplus_. Now, are you struggling to stick to dry January? In my case, yes, I've failed. I've fallen off the wagon. Not too often, but once or twice. Well, we Brits get through more than 150 million cups of tea a day, but a new trend is taking the nation by storm: sparkling tea. Now, are they any good? I'm joined by Helen McGinn, female wine writer and author of, it's a great book, Knackered Mum's Wine Club, and of course a friend of the programme. Helen, have you tried any?
I've tried lots.
What do you reckon?
Well, I have to say, I came at it, I was quite dubious, I have to be honest, because in my experience, anything that is trying to be a non-alcoholic version of wine tends to fall fairly flat on the palate. But this was a real surprise, I have to say. The brand that I tried first was created by a Danish sommelier who he too just found that there weren't any wines out there that were fitting the non-alcoholic bill. So he just set about creating his own. And he started with tea because of all the layers of flavour that you have. So instead of a product trying to be like wine, this is just a really lovely alternative. But, you don't sip it and you're not disappointed because actually it's not trying to be something it isn't.
And do you have a favourite one?
Well, the one that I particularly like is the Fortnum sparkling tea. So it's not cheap. It's $16.95 a bottle. But the bottle, first of all,
how much,
really,
Helen? How much?
It's $16.95.
Whoa!
I think I just made you choke on your tea.
That's expensive. And how many cups do you get out of that?
Well, that will give you 6 glasses.
Right.
But it looks very much like a bottle of champagne, and you get the pop of the cork as well.
Right.
So it just adds to the occasion of it all. And if you sip it in a flute, first of all, if you were drinking at a party, nobody would know. Nobody would notice you weren't drinking alcohol. But the flavours are gorgeous. I mean, properly good flavour. It's a really good quality product.
Well, look, I've got one here. I've got the San Pellegrino lemon and tea, organic sparkling beverage with black tea and Italian lemon juice. Have you tried this one?
Yeah, now that one is, so that's not strictly speaking, that's got a bit of tea in, but not lots of tea.
Oh, so I've got to sack the researchers then. They've got the wrong one. Why didn't they go to Fortnum and Mason and get me that nice one?
They haven't given you the expensive one.
No, they're just, everything's done on the cheap on Mail Plus, That's the trouble, really. I'm going to try it anyway. Look, I'm just going to try it now. Here we go. Let's have a go. Yuck. That's really yuck, Helen. Not doing that. And I'm a great tea drinker.
Okay, well, try and get your hands on the proper stuff and try that one instead.
All right, that's Helen McGinn, female wine writer, author of Knackered Mum's Wine Club, and a great friend of the programme. Do try the tea. If you do, let us know what you think. You email dailyshow@mailplus.co.uk or follow us at mailplus_. Well, that's all we've got time for today. For the latest from the Daily Mail newsroom, come back every day for briefings at 7 a.m, 12 noon, and of course 5 p.m, where you can listen to me all over again. That's all from me, Andrew Pearce, from The Daily Show. I'll be back next week. Have yourselves a great evening and good night.